recognize some of the elected officials we have in the audience. Councilman John Moss is here. We have school board members Laura Hughes and Vicki Manning here. Our treasurer, Lee Henderson, is here. Are there any other elected officials that I did not spell? Okay, so we're going to do this a little differently tonight. We're going to do a brief business meeting first so that afterwards you can enjoy some refreshments and mix and mingle with the candidates afterwards. Our candidate forum, we're going to be doing 10 minutes for each candidate to come up and speak. They have up to 3 minutes to give an opening remark. They don't have to use the whole thing, but in a total of 10 minutes after their opening remarks, we'll get the questions from the audience to ask them. And before the 10 minutes is up, if they have a minute left and there's not another question or there's not enough time for another question, they can do a closing statement. And don't forget on the way out to do the straw poll. You have those over here. Let us know who you liked. And put it in the box there. The candidates have their campaign signs there, out there. They have their materials. Don't forget to take any with you on your way out. And so now I'd like to introduce, yes?
Madam President, one thing. While we're doing this, please be courteous to the candidates and take just a moment and go ahead and take your phones and put them on vibrate. Because it's really distracting when you're getting phone calls and text messages to the candidates up here, because they're really trying to get the word out to you guys on how they're going to influence and lead the city into a new direction. Thank you.
Okay, so the person who's going to be asking the questions, our moderator, John Roby. Okay, so here's the list of people. The first person that we're going to have up here is, you want to call them out or you want me to?
I'll tell you what, you call them out and I'll read the questions.
Rick R.K. Kowalowicz is the first in the Beach District. We are doing this in alphabetical order. I want you to know we did invite Councilwoman Rosemary Wilson and Councilman Guy Tower. They have other events that they had to be at today, so they're the only beach person we have.
Thanks everybody for having me. Always a nice crowd, nice to be amongst friendly people when you're speaking who have the same kind of beliefs as I do. I'm a fiscal conservative. But a couple things are important. You know, we are an at-large system. That means everybody gets to vote for everybody. Even though I'm running for the Beach District, I have to take the needs of all the districts. But if you look at the Beach District, I've been in business in the Beach District for over 35 years. I've owned an arcade surf shop. I've been deeply involved for the last 20 years in politics and making the beach better. My wife just retired of 38 years of teaching school. I'm very proud of that. I mean, she's an awesome teacher, and I've learned a lot from her and what it takes to be a teacher. It takes a lot. I'm the only candidate that understands the beach. There's a lot of people who live out there, but I know so many business people at the beach. I get what the problems are. I've been talking about the problems for a lot of years. Some of you have heard me talk about them, about parking. You know, I'll give you an example. Parking is a huge issue at the beach. 15 years ago, they took away 3,000 parking places. And guess what? I screamed like hell because of that. Guess what they're doing now? They want to put them back. I mean, I'm just scratching my head. I mean, you talk about a level playing field, where you're talking about in the last 20 years, we have a decline in economy. We have an underproducing resort. We're renting less rooms than we did the last year, every year from year to year. People don't realize that. Sandbridge is kicking butt. They're up 50%. The rest of the city and the hotel rooms are up, and the oceanfront is down. August of this year, early August, I went to the oceanfront and I drove up and down every street at 2:30 in the morning. I live on 24th Street, and one thing I'd never seen in the 31 years I owned arcade surf shop, you could always see no vacancy everywhere. There was not one no vacancy sign on any hotel up and down the whole resort, and I rode from the Loop all the way down. Not one. What's going on? The loop. It's the last piece of property. The last piece of property is undeveloped. The rest of that will have a concrete wall all the way across. It's wrong. 96% of all the revenues collected in this city are collected by locals. Less than 4% are collected by tourism. And if you take the liabilities right now on the debt, we're losing money to have a resort. People don't want to talk about that, but yet we continue to fund projects that have no proof of bringing any money to the general fund. That's got to stop. You guys know me, you understand me, I'm very passionate, I know what I know, and I got to stop now, but I'm going to take all the questions I can.
That was 30 seconds,
30 seconds, I'm good. I'll save that for a question.
okay?
All right, RK, you have filed a lawsuit against the voter registrar. Some say you have misrepresented the law. How do you interpret the law?
Well, I don't interpret the law. First of all, I didn't write the law, and I don't interpret the law. But I am supposed to be able to understand what the law means. So, I mean, I've got a lawsuit. I'm going to talk minimally about that because on the 11th, I'm going to talk plenty about it. But I'm going to read it to you. It'll take me about 35 seconds to read it to you. And this is the code. It says, Virginia Code 15.2, 1535, members of a government body not to be elected or appointed by government body to certain offices. Pursuant to Article 7, Section 6 of the Constitution of Virginia, no member of a government body of a locality shall be eligible during the term of office for which he was elected or appointed to hold any office filled by the government body. That's very simple languages, guys. It says what it says. This is a term called statutory language. And what that means, the words mean what they were. We are a Dillon Rule state.
Okay. This is a stormwater question. Besides the smoke and mirrors the city is doing, what do you feel is the main should be the main focus? Please say no sea level, climate change. What can be actually done right now?
So what can be done right now? I'll give you some quick numbers. I'll try to do something as quick as I can. I'm going to talk fast. 20 years ago, we were collecting about $10 million a year in stormwater fees. Today, we're collecting over $40 million. Last year, of the $40 million we were collecting, only $14 million of that was being used for maintenance. What we have a problem right now is a maintenance problem. We need to fix all our stormwater maintenance issues. We're on a backlog of about 15 years right now, and it's supposed to be on an 8-year cycle where everything starts over again. We need to go to a 4-year cycle. We need to stop. Listen to this for now. For now. We need to get this under control so we can see exactly where the problems are. We shouldn't be developing in low-lying areas, and if we do develop in low-lying areas, we need to build on pilings or on raised foundations. This will fix some of the issues right now, and that's what we can do right now. Until we get the maintenance under control, we're really not going to know what the issues are. I believe that maintenance is going to fix 80 or 90% of it, but we need to see, but we need to get that done now, and we have the money, and we do have the money.
Okay, next question. Both of these questions are kind of similar, so I'm just going to blend them in together. Where do you stand on armed security in schools? Some teachers in Florida can now carry guns on campus. What are your thoughts, and do you support this measure?
I do support it, and I'll tell you why. There's an old saying, you don't want to bring a knife to a gunfight. And unfortunately, criminals are going to find a way to bring guns. So you want to tell all the criminals in the world, hey, all us honest people, we're not going to be armed. Are you kidding me? You're just asking for trouble. By the way, why don't we learn from Chicago how that's working out for them? With all the restrictions they have on gun rules, and we are using them to tell us how we have a toxic work environment, by the way. So we should listen to them on what they've done as well, right? So they're the #1 city in the country for this kind of problem, and they have the highest restrictions that are out there. Really? I believe that we should be able to have people who are certified and legit to carry guns. I think that's what we have to do right now, unfortunately.
Thank you. What experience do you have with formulating or monitoring budgets of a large organization?
My large organization on budgeting was my surf shop, which I had to fight for every single dollar. You know what I mean? So I knew how to make it work. And I don't, to be honest with you, and neither does most council people, and maybe John Moss is probably the only one that really has that experience. But I can tell you this, Wood, it's just a numbers game, guys. It's a numbers game, another zero, another decimal. There's no big deal. It's not hard to do, guys. I've been talking about numbers for a long time in the city. Some of you guys heard me say it. I don't have a problem with that. I know what a good deal and a bad deal is. I know how much money we have. I know how much we should be spending. I know what we should be spending it on. That's not hard to do. There's a lot of common sense involved here. There's a lot of common sense involved, and we need to start using that. We've been lacking that for a lot of years here. We don't have a revenue problem in the city of Virginia Beach. We have a spending problem. 20 years ago, our budget was $1 billion. Today it's $2.4 billion. Well, think about that. We have all these extra revenues. What are they doing with the money? We didn't have any debt 20 years ago, and now we've got $2.4 billion in debt.
Yeah, this is probably the last question.
Okay, last question?
Probably.
Okay. Possibly the last question, candidate RK.
Okay.
All right. This is kind of a touchy subject because this deals with the beachfront. All right?
I know something about that.
What would you do with Rudy Loop? This is RK. What would RK do with Rudy Loop?
Well, RK's been speaking about this for 15 years, everybody. RK put a video out of it last year. But let me tell you something. This is important. This last little storm we had, there was a traffic jam at Rudy Loop. All the citizens from Virginia Beach were coming down to ride around the loop, to see the storm, to see the beach. It was packed, guys. You guys pay the lion's share. Why don't we leave one piece of property undeveloped? And when I mean undeveloped, I mean undeveloped. We have an open space program. Can't we have our ocean front with open space? Is there a problem with that? Oh, I know. Maybe the special interest, the oligarchy that's running the city right now, doesn't like that. They want to build some hotels there. That's their big dream. That's what this is about, everybody. Are you kidding me? This is business 101. They found a way to manipulate the system, and now we're working to find a way to finance them as well. This is just wrong, guys, and I've been talking about this for 20 years, and a lot of you people don't know that. This is just not right. Government shouldn't be picking winners and losers.
Okay, you've got like 30 seconds to make a closing remark.
Look, you know, I recently, I brought it with me, there's an article in the paper, it was about 3 weeks ago, and it talked about trust. And I found it most interesting, trust, as we're looking to find out where our toxic work environment is in our city, right? And yet, who's the boss? Council. Well, you think the people below them are not seeing this as well? Let's work on trust, because obviously the people that work in our council right now don't trust each other. How about changing it up a little bit? How about changing it up? How about giving me a chance? Give me a chance. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. What about that?
Okay, now we're going to go on to the Rose Hall City Council candidate, and our first one is Councilman Mike Belushi.
If there's any cards that need to be brought up, please write them and bring them up as soon as you possibly can. Thank you.
Well, good evening. My name is Michael Berlucci, and it's an honor and privilege to serve you on our City Council. On May 7th, I accepted the greatest honor and responsibility of my lifetime, and that's when I was appointed to serve on our City Council from the Rose Hall District. But I recognize that I was appointed, not elected, and it's my job now to earn your support and earn your vote and earn your confidence and trust. The reasons I want to serve are simple. It's because I love Virginia Beach. I was born here, raised in Virginia Beach, educated in Virginia Beach public schools. My family lives here, and I want to be part of a team that helps make our community even better, even stronger. We can work together to move Virginia Beach forward in a positive direction. All of us work together. There's a few key priorities that I'd like to focus on. That's to expand and diversify our economy. Respond to flooding. People should not live in fear that their homes will flood. Our city must remain safe and secure with strong public schools. We have to address mental health reform. We have to improve the access and delivery of mental health services in Virginia and in Virginia Beach. It's a critical part about keeping our community healthy. And we have to be inclusive. We have to warmly welcome everyone who wants to live and work and do business in Virginia Beach and have a level playing field so that everyone has an equal opportunity to be successful. And so that's a little bit about what I want to do, but I want to talk a little bit about something that I think may be of interest to you, and that's about really the guiding philosophy of my perspective toward government. I did an internship at the Heritage Foundation just when I was in college. Many of you are familiar with the Heritage Foundation. I worked for a woman there named Becky Norton Dunlop. At that time, Becky was the Vice President for External Relations. She's now the Ronald Reagan Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Ronald Reagan Distinguished Fellow. She worked in the Reagan administration as the Director of Office of the OPM Manager. But really, my relationship with her was so important, mostly because I lived with her when I was doing this internship. And her husband, George, who worked for the Senate Agriculture Committee, and served me dinner every single night. And we sat around the dinner table and talked about what became my guiding principles of government. And that is, government should be small. We have to respect individual liberty. Taxes and regulations should be low. We have to respect the rule of law. And these are just a few of the guiding principles. Now, we can have debates about the role of government in our lives, and we certainly do. But I just want to share with you, that's my perspective. I was privileged to have that experience, and it really has shaped my philosophy of the role of government in our lives. And it's part of why I want to serve on our city council. So I'm happy to take a few questions. Thank you.
Great. Now, you prefer Mike or Michael?
Either one.
Okay. Mike?
As long as you call me, I don't care.
There you go. Just be fair and transparent. A lot of these questions are going to be asked over and over and over to the same candidates, all right?
You're using up his time.
Hush. All right, so, but there's other questions that's going to be asked that wasn't given to us before for RK, okay? What do you believe to be the answer to the 300% increase in mental health referrals CHKD has noted in our area in the past 3 years?
I'm glad you asked that question. We have a mental health crisis in America, and Virginia Beach is not immune from that crisis. One of the ways that we have to do that is to improve the access and delivery of mental health services. And that includes that there's a shortage of mental health care providers. We have to start treating mental health like we do other forms of health and reduce the stigma associated with receiving treatment. This will improve our communities in a variety of ways. And so we have to attract healthcare providers, and we have to talk with the Commonwealth and with the federal government about making more resources available to help treat this crisis that's happening. And by the way, it impacts our public safety.
Great. Thank you, Mike. What experience do you have with formulating or monitoring budgets of large organizations?
Well, as RK noted, there's approximately $2 billion in the annual Virginia Beach City budget, even more so than that. And I have no experience in managing a budget of that size. But I do have experience in managing my own personal budget. I work for the Chrysler Museum of Art, where I create a budget for a department. And I serve on the board, and I have served as president of a variety of nonprofit organizations. And so while formulating those budgets is nowhere near as complex or as important as formulating a budget like the City of Virginia Beach, the principles convey. And the sense of responsibility and obligation to be a responsible steward of those resources conveys. And so I'll take those guiding principles to the work that I do and look forward to a chance to formulate a budget in the future.
Great. Mike, you have a history of being a Wells Sessom supporter and a light rail proponent. Can we trust you in any part of the old same, or will you still just be part of the Wells Sessom's Good Old Boy Club?
So I supported Will Sessoms in 2016. I thought he was the best candidate at that time, and I still do. I stand by that. And I'm a person who's loyal. I'm not here to try to sell people down the road because of a decision that I made in 2016, and I hope that you'll respect that. But I also want to tell you, I grew up in Virginia Beach. I love Virginia Beach. My family lives here. I work for the Chrysler Museum. I'm involved, my history is in nonprofit. My history is in community volunteerism. My history is about making our community more inclusive so that everyone can enjoy opportunity. So I'm not here for any kind of special interest as the question implies. I'm here to serve the city I love and the city that we all love, and I hope you give me the chance to do that. Thank you.
Ken?
All right. Same question that RK got asked. What would you do with Rudy Lou?
I was born and raised here, as I noted, and I served very poorly at Rudy Lou for a period of time. That's why I don't serve anymore. But I do respect the role that it plays in our culture, for the surf culture, for the culture of recreation. But I reserve the right to formulate a formal position on that when we know more. But I will tell you that what I'm interested in about Rudy Loop, and I think what most people are interested in based on my observations of the conversation, is to create a space that makes our resort more accessible to people who live in Virginia Beach, so that we can all enjoy the wonderful amenities that exist in our resort, because that's what it is. And so I'm interested in opportunities about parking. I think people want to explore the opportunity to go to the resort area and have a chance to park and enjoy restaurants and shops and the beach and other things, other types of recreation. And I also, so I'll stop there, but parks and open space, I support all of that. But ultimately, it's so that we can enjoy that part of the resort.
Next question. Well, since they're looking at that, there was one there.
Right.
You got it?
Right.
He's ready.
All right. Where do you stand on armed security in schools? Some teachers in Florida can now carry guns on campus. What are your thoughts, and do you support this measure?
That's so it's a great question. It's an important dialogue that we're having. That's a discussion for our General Assembly, first and foremost. It's a discussion for our General Assembly, and it's a discussion for our school boards. I don't mean to punt the issue. We've had discussions about firearms at the city council level, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. I think it's important for council members to stay in their lane, to focus on the issues that are important to all of us. And that's, if you give me the chance, that's what I'll do. So I'm here to talk about creating more jobs, more opportunity in Virginia Beach, responding to flooding, keeping our communities safe. And let's let our legislators who we choose go to Richmond and make those decisions.
Great.
Okay, you have a minute left to do a closing statement unless you want to take another question, which you will.
Well, there's one thing that I do want to say.
Okay.
Is that I'm here tonight because I want to hear from you, because I want to work with you, because as I mentioned before, I love Virginia Beach and I want to be part of a team that makes our community even stronger. And so, as the gentleman who's asking the questions noted, there might be some times when we disagree. I suspect there were. If we all agreed all the time, it would be boring. And is that really what you want anyway? There may be times when we disagree, and I'm sure there will be. But I'm here to tell you that I'd like to work with you. I'm a very, very strong advocate for causes that I believe in. I'm going to carry that spirit to my work on City Council, and I hope that you'll give me the chance, just give me the chance to work with you, and I will do everything I can to make you proud, and to carry myself with the dignity and honor that the position of City Council requires. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here among you, and I hope for the chance to be back, and I bought a ticket to the breakfast, so I'll see you.
Our next candidate in the Rose Hall council seat is Conrad Shesdentel.
If I could have any special skill, I will be honest, it would be Kenny Golden's voice. Because one of the largest things against me is the fact that I'm pretty sure that people in the back can't hear me right now. That's something a long time ago. But I'll tell you this, as I see that I'm out here because I love the public's interest. I'm a big fan of civics. When I left Salem High School in 2005, I went immediately to Portview and hired at a hotel where I draw my income, and I studied political science and world history. This is the stuff that gets me out of bed every day. At city council meetings, I give them the business. I've written a lot of columns for the Virginia Pilot and a lot of letters to the editor. I go to as many party meetings, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Tea Party, as I can, because this is what interests me. I'm going to show you how much it interests me by answering these four questions.
Conrad, thanks for coming out tonight. Besides the smoke and mirrors the city is doing with what do you feel is one of the things that needs to be most focused on? Please do not say sea level, climate change. What can be done right now?
Tightening the budget. We just had a budget passed. Yes, they raised taxes, stormwater fees too. I just don't want them to come up the next time around wanting to ask for more. I like the idea of going to other sources of income for the city to spend here. Both Virginia and Washington DC. They're going to supplement our income so we don't have to raise property taxes and sales taxes and fees anymore. Or at least that's what I would want.
Great. What experience do you have with formulating and monitoring budgets of large organizations?
I work at the front desk of a hotel. Daily, money comes in and out, I gotta make reservations. That's making thousands of dollars a day. Boss is the guy that deals with millions of dollars a year. Unfortunately, that is not my responsibility of handling the entire business, but I do handle the money day to day. So I do know that I will handle that.
Great. What would you do with Rudy Luke?
My ultimate vision for Rudy Loop is to make it brief, but I don't want any hotels there. There's enough hotels. If there is to be development at Rudy Loop, it's just to get rid of all the asphalt and concrete there and make it a little more green while keeping the surfing history sound there, so people can still go there to use it recreationally. Don't need to build any buildings on top of that in order to do so. That's my idea for that. That's a good one.
Where do you stand on armed security in schools? Some teachers in Florida can now carry guns on campus. What are your thoughts, and do you support this measure?
That particular measure? No, I do not. I would not want teachers to be the ones that are armed. I would rather be armament, if there is to be in schools, to be at the resource officers so they can handle things at the entrance and exits of the school and not actually in the classrooms. That's a very high stress environment anyway. I wouldn't want to add firearms to that situation.
Okay. What do you believe to be the answer to the 300% increase in mental health referrals the CHKD has noted in our area in the past 3 years?
I would like to encourage more education specifically for mental health. Old Dominion, Norfolk State colleges throughout Virginia, so we can increase the supply of people who could actually perform treatment for mental health. And also, I would like to supplement their pay for that as well, to encourage them to want to do it too.
What would you do with our stormwater situation right now as of today?
As of today, well, I'm just going to go home to sleep after this. But when it comes time to talk to people of influence, I would go to Richmond, I would go to DC to bring funding from their sources to here, because we've already tapped out right here. Also, another important issue of that is red tape. I found this out at various civic leagues where they're talking about projects Virginia already wants to do to handle flooding that they can't do for years because they're not getting proper permits to start building. So I want to get funding. I want to knock on their doors to say, hey, clear away the red tape so we can start. In order to finish, you have to start first.
How much time we got left?
4 minutes?
Okay. If elected, will you vote for a tax increase, and what is your parameters in order to vote for that tax increase?
parameters are simply whether or not you have the desire to raise taxes. Even in the face of a massive recession where funds are going to plummet, because you subsist off the property taxes, I wouldn't want to raise it just to make up for it. I would want to go, again, I mentioned it a couple of times, because we don't need to just tax ourselves into doing in order to get money. We can get it from other sources as well. That's where I would want to go first, not want to raise taxes.
You are involved in so many organizations. How will you take time for those who live in the Rose Hall area and their issues?
I'd like to meet with them as much as possible. At their door, at Rose Hall restaurants, sporting events too. In order to find out what they care about, you have to meet with them. And that's the main thing I would want to do, is simply build my relationship with the people around me.
I got one. The legislative. You spoke at city council, but you didn't really speak on anything on the legislative agenda. Anything in there that you thought was good or bad? How about the community development authority?
I don't really like the idea of just adding more and more and more bureaucracies to that. It's diffusing the responsibility of what you want someone like myself to do. So that particular legislative packet I did not talk about, but later in the evening there was one particular subject from it that I did engage on, but then you got to remember there's 14 others that I did not touch on, and as Reed mentioned, it seems weird to spring that upon us with 15 different items and not give us a chance to talk about it and research it. So that's why I've been wanting to engage it, because I haven't done it.
Okay. Do you want to give a closing minute?
I work in a hotel. That doesn't mean that that's where I should, I want to serve the public. The best way I think to serve the public is to fix their problems. I alone am not going to be capable of fixing the problems. You've got to do a teamwork effort in order to do that. So I will work with council. I will work with the state of Virginia. And I will work with the United States government the best way possible in order to make sure the quickest way to fix our problems can be done, and the cheapest way to fix our problems can be done.
Okay, moving on to Rose Hall School Board. The first candidate is Robert Dean.
Good evening. My name is Robert Dean. I've been a resident of Rose Hall for just under 40 years. I know the district in and out, all throughout. I just stepped down as 5 years as president of one of the largest homeowner associations in the state of Virginia, Green Run. A community comprised of just under 5,000 homes, 16,000 people, swimming pools, tennis courts, and the whole thing. It's like running in a small city. But I had to resign 3 weeks ago in order to run for the school board, which is consuming most of my time. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I came here, and I decided not to leave to go back to Pennsylvania in the cold winters, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I became very engaged after my career with Sears, and then following that with J.C. Penney Company, and I got involved with the disabled community and the environmental community, both of which about 20 years each. In 1989, I started, as some of you may know, a project called Clean the Bay Day, and 2 years later, I was a co-founder of the Elizabeth River Project to clean up the Elizabeth River. Both of those projects were very challenging, and here we are, 31 years later. Clean the Bay Day continues to thrive and teach good stewardship to our children and adults who have been historically desecrating our waterways. It was all done without government intervention, without pain and suffering. I also had the pleasure of serving with Councilman John Moss and Nancy Parker and others when I served on the city council. And so I learned all about budgets. There's many things going on in the school budget right now that I don't think they fully understand. I think they're taking their lead strictly from the superintendent. They don't have the inquisitive minds to bring it under control. And I think I'd like to replicate with Laura Hughes, Vicki Manning, and Carolyn Weems, the pain-free budget as prescribed by Councilman John Moss and Jessica Abbott, which was soundly rejected by the other members of council, unfortunately. You can operate a city and get the services out there. We can do the same thing with schools, because the school population right now is down 11%. It's amazing. It's just under 8,000 students, but yet we're continuing to build, and fund these gigantic mausoleums. When you put in over $100 million for a high school, something's wrong with the formula. I'm hoping to help change that after working with the city budgets along with Councilman Moss and Bill DeSteff. I do want to say, before I close out this segment, I've had the endorsement of school board members Carolyn Weems, Vicki Manning, Laura Hughes, of course John Moss, Jessica Abbott, and Senator Bill DeSteff, along with the Police Benevolent Association. So I'm very proud and honored that they had faith in me for their support. Thank you.
If you have not picked up your straw poll voting card yet, please do so and drop it off on the way out. Thanks. Robert, what is your experience, past or current, having the responsibility of oversight of a multi-million-dollar budget? Can everybody hear me in the back?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Well, all the years that I was on city council back in the 90s, it was under $1 billion. I worked very closely with Councilman Moss and at that time Councilman DeSteff, who later became a member of the House of Delegates. We spent Sunday mornings in Bill's kitchen, Bill DeSteff's kitchen, working on the budget. John and I would be talking about the budget 2:30, 3 o'clock in the mornings, going through the whole process, seeing where we could cut the fat, because it's your money, it's your budget, it doesn't belong to the city bureaucrats. I think, and also coming off of Homeowner Association, which is multi-million-dollar budget, I'm a fiscal conservative. I think most of you may know that. I want to cut waste wherever I can cut it and keep the money in your pockets.
Lack of discipline seems to be getting rewarded. How do you feel about true discipline in our schools? What would you do? I mean, so what are your ideas on the lack of discipline?
Well, I just received a report on that very subject. Coming from the family of 5 Marines, my father did 32 years in the Marine Corps. He set the trend in our family that whether he was in World War II or in Korea, we towed the line as far as discipline. And when he was away in wars, I was raised pretty much by my grandparents. And I learned to respect them. I learned to respect their word. And respect is something that appears to be lacking in the Virginia Beach school system, because the teacher should reign supreme. When she walks in that room or he walks in that room, everything should become silent and focus on that teacher and what she has to say and what she's going to be teaching you. If you have a classroom with 10 students or 50 students, if you can compel them and control that behavior, they will learn. When they're disruptive and you're no longer allowed to refer them to the office, something's gone wrong, and I want to be part of the solution to changing that back to the old days.
Do you support reinstating the old grading system?
If it's not broke, why fix it? It's the same correlation to doing away with the valedictorian. ABCs are very easy to understand. They were part of this whole education system in this country since the Industrial Revolution. And now all of a sudden we have a convoluted system. Everybody understands A, B, C, D, and E. And that's the way we should go back to it, and not some of these pathetic formulas that they're using in the site-based classrooms. It's wrong. It is also wrong that we're doing away with valedictorians. If a student excels and they work their hearts out to excel in that classroom, Why would we take that award away and that recognition away? You have a superintendent of the year, a teacher of the year, they get it. Why not the children? They're your children.
In the Virginia Pilot, on occasions, there's been articles talking about the disunity about the Virginia Beach School Board. If elected to the Virginia Beach School Board, how would you bring unity for everyone to come together to push for the education system?
I'm not a kumbaya type of guy. You all probably know. And if you have everybody in lockstep, you're just doing a disservice to the people of this city. You really are. You have to have objective conversations going on. You have to challenge things. If the student superintendent and the staff bring in something, you have to at least read it and have good, honest dialogue. I'm very impressed by Vicki Manning, Laura Hughes, and Carolyn Weems of what they've been able to do. They have raised the standards of which the current school, the other 8 members of the school board, it appears to me they're trying to divide and conquer, and it's like they're trying to have a bully pulpit like Putin does in Russia. Okay.
What measures do you think are needed to control the poor planning of new school construction?
I had the opportunity when I was serving on council to serve on the school construction. At that time, we were building schools, elementary schools, 450 students, and they were running about $10 million. Well, of course, inflation comes about, but what we're doing now is, I said earlier, we're building these mausoleums. Children, they get off a bus or get out of their cars, they walk into the school, they may look at it, but these facades that are, and these porticos that we're building on and adding on, it's a big con job by the architects who designed these buildings. And the Leeds buildings and all these other grandiose things they're trying to capture water and all that. It's really not effective, and it doesn't give the taxpayer a good return on the investment. I'm not saying we should go back to one-room schoolhouses with coal stoves in them, but there's ways that we can cut, and nobody is pushing back against the architects. And it seems like this current school board, they want to build these edifices for their names to be implanted in some cornerstone. I don't need that recognition.
Okay, you got 30 seconds for a closing remark.
Ladies and gentlemen, I spent many years in this community, and I'll probably be focusing quite a bit on the disabled community because I ran the Virginia Beach Sunwillers. I was one of the co-founders of the Sugar Plum Bakery, and I ran the Center for Technology Access and regional coordinator for very special arts, music, arts, and drama for the disabled. I've served this city well, and I think I've served with honor. I know just everybody in this room just about, and I am not ashamed to say I respect you, and I hope you respect me for my past service, and trust me to go forward and to give you another term of service on the Virginia Beach School Board.
Okay, our next candidate is Stephen Johnson.
Hello, and thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Normally, I start with a speech about my family, my friends, and my involvement in the community. Tonight, I'm going to start with something different. A while ago, a long time ago, I was working at home watching CNN. They were doing a special on behind the scenes after George W. Bush got elected. George Bush was on Air Force One, walked to the back of the plane where the press was, something President Obama never did, and was just talking to him. Somebody shouted to him, "Mr. President, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be?" He looked at him and said, "I'm not a tree, I'm a bush." It's funny on one level, but it's deep on another level. The deep part of it is, he didn't want to be something that he's not. He was George Bush. And I'm Stephen Johnston. And that's what I want to be, Stephen Johnston. And on the school board, I want to be Stephen Johnston. I know in the past I've run and I've supported a lot of ideas a lot of people in this room didn't like. And those ideas did get voted in. But then again, you heard them from me first. You heard them from me when I said, you asked me about full-day kindergarten, I said, yes, I supported full-day kindergarten, it got passed. You asked me about school bus pay. Yes, I supported better working conditions and better pay for our school bus drivers, and that got passed. This year, my issues are pretty simple and basic, and something that everybody needs to be concerned about. My number one issue is school safety and security. Our schools in Virginia Beach are not safe. You look at what happened yesterday in Norfolk. A gentleman walked into an elementary school, was walking through the hallways. A teacher confronted him and he left. They didn't call the police. He walked down the street and went into a high school. He knocked on the door, the kid let him in, and he walked through the high school. Resource officer finally arrested him. What could have happened if he had a gun or if he wanted to do something bad? That needs to be addressed. What if that happened in our Virginia Beach schools? Everybody says, no, that can't happen here. But look what happened at Building 2. Yes, it can happen here, and yes, it will happen here if we don't step up and make some critical decisions. A lot of people like saying, well, you know, I want to do this and do that. Don't give you anything specific. One of the specific ideas I want to give you tonight is our key card system at the schools. Learn the lesson from Building 2. When the police showed up, they couldn't get in the building because their key cards could not enter the building. We need to reprogram all the key cards, Michael Bercelli, in the city buildings as well as all the schools, that when there's an incident happening, the police or first responders show up. They pull out their key card, it unlocks that door, and they can get into the building. Because you can't, a police officer at an incident is no good sitting in the parking lot waiting for somebody to bring them a key. All right, thank you very much.
Steve, what is your experience and knowledge about kids with 504s like me?
504s. My son Patrick had a 504 program coming through school. And my wife will tell you, we fought tooth and nail every year to have the schools enforce the 504 program. Last year, Virginia Beach was found guilty in federal court of not properly supporting children with disabilities, 504 programs, and other programs. We need to fix this. We need to fix this by getting more assistants in the room, more assistants, and more special ed teachers in the classroom. Yes, sir.
What is your past experience or current having the responsibility for oversight of a multi-million-dollar budget?
I work at an engineering company in the electrical department. I'm responsible for right now, I'm running 35 projects this year. I haven't totaled up how much it is. 3 years ago, I totaled up, I did over $3 billion in construction expenses on the electrical side alone. I understand what it costs going into a project, cost overruns during a project, what it costs to get things done, and we monitor what's going on in the projects. So I have experience on formulating the budget, working within your budget, and maintaining that budget through the process.
Great. I'm going to paraphrase this question. Same question that Mr. Dean got asked. If elected, how would you come to the school board and work with the school board and create a little bit of unity or cohesiveness to move the ball forward to better educate our kids?
Well, I would come with a not a everything but nothing type attitude. I am a fiscal conservative, and we do need to fix our budget. But then again, I worked with Carolyn Weems on getting e-books for all of our students. We've worked with other members of the council. We can find common ground. We don't need to be confrontational. If there's something everybody agrees, you just find one thing you agree on over here and something they agree on over here, then we can find that common ground. Even John Moss and Jessica Abbott have done that on city council when they have a compromised budget. Compromise is the key word, and I think there's enough people in the middle of the spectrum that we can find a decent compromise to get things done.
All right, thank you. Lack of discipline seems to be getting rewarded. How do you feel about discipline in our schools? What are your ideas of bringing back discipline to our classrooms?
I think we do need better discipline in our classrooms. I'm not sure if we need Marine Corps discipline, but we do need discipline. Currently, we're running a PBIS system, positive behavioral I can't remember the rest of it. It's not important, but it's not working, it's failing. That system was designed to work with the mentally challenged students who don't understand positive and negative reinforcement attached to their behavior. And right now, Virginia Beach is applying this to all the students. So the students that know what they're doing are taking advantage of the system. We need to, A, put the teachers back in control of their classroom, but more importantly, we need administration to support our teachers in their decision. I know a lot of parents have told me that their son was failing in a class. He went down there and hollered at the teacher. Teacher didn't do it. Went to holler at the principal. Principal hollered at the teacher. Why'd you fail this kid? He knows what he's doing. We don't need administrators siding with the parents. We need administrators siding with our teachers.
Do you support reinstating the old grading system?
It's a broad question. And A, no I don't. Not in the high schools and the middle schools. The old system in high school and middle school was a 7-point system. 93 was an A, 92 is a B. Put our students at a huge disadvantage on getting into colleges. I fought that system. Unfortunately, they go to a full 10-point system. Dan Edwards decided to go with the modified Fairfax County system with A pluses, B pluses. And one school board member actually offered, well, why don't we give out E pluses to let the kids know they just almost made it? I kid you not, she said that. As far as the grading system in the elementary schools, we never had A, B's, and C's from 3rd grade or below. We had S's and SAs. I think we need to go to a more standardized system so that everybody understands and we can communicate how their students are doing in 1st through 3rd grades. 4th through 5th should be A, B's, and C's.
Do you support bringing back class rankings?
Okay? This year I sat and watched 2 graduations on TV. Calhoun High School, First Colonial. Calhoun was a friend of mine. First Colonial, my niece had graduated from the legal studies. Both of those schools had a valedictorian and a salutatorian speak. So it's bringing it back. I'm not sure where that's coming from. But we have them now. We had last year, we got them this year, we'll have them next year. Should we keep doing this? Yes, we should.
What measures do you think are needed to control poor planning on new school construction?
Well, I'm not on the school board, so I can say it. We need to fire Tony Arnold. Like I said, I'm in the engineering business. I've been following schools a long time. One of the reasons I first won was the $110 million debacle at Calhoun High School. And it's Tony Arnold's pushing the LEED agenda. When Tony Arnold was working there, they were doing LEED Gold and Platinum and all the schools. Tony Arnold got deployed to Afghanistan for 3 years. City of Virginia Beach started doing LEED Certified. That's the lowest LEED certification. When Tony Arnold got back, he fired that assistant, and they went back to doing LEED, Gold, and Platinum buildings. And I can tell you right now, a LEED Platinum building adds 30% to the construction cost of the building and offers no true benefit or return.
Okay, 30 seconds for closing.
30 seconds for closing. I have another question. Got another one?
You got more
You got
questions?
another?
All right.
Take some time to read it.
Wow.
Some teachers in Florida can now carry guns on campus. What are your thoughts and do you support this measure? Where do you stand on armed security in schools?
I don't think having teachers with guns is the answer. If we want more armed people in school, we need to have armed professionals. Having a gun in school is nothing magic about that bullet. When they shoot it, it goes straight. It doesn't zig around the people, hit out the locker, and hit the bad person. It goes through everybody until it hits what they aim. In order to be efficient, you have to practice, practice, and practice. Teachers don't have time to do the regular work, let alone practice. If we want more armed security in our buildings, we need to bring in the police and the sheriff. But I think we can harden our buildings with other security and safety improvements so we don't get to that part that our schools look like prisons. Thank you.
Okay, our next candidate would have been Joel McDonald, but he never even answered us whether or not he could make it or not. So our next candidate is school board member Jessica Owen. 3 minutes to give your opening comments.
Well, thank you all for having me today. Although not all the school board candidates were able to make it here today, I made it a priority to come out and arrange my schedule to talk to constituents that may not be at my typical breakfast that I go to or whatever other events that I'm used to attending. My goal as a member on the board is to reach out and talk to as many different people in the community as I can and try and provide a voice for as many different people in the community as I can. It's important for me to get feedback from all people in the community, and when I say all people in the community, and with the schools, I want to talk to the business owners, I want to talk to the grandparents, I want to talk to the parents. Students need to have a buy-in in our system, teachers need to have a buy-in. I want all the opinions. A little bit about myself very briefly. I am a Virginia Beach Public Schools graduate, K through 12. I am a parent of a Virginia Beach Public Schools graduate. And I'm also a caretaker / guardian of a Virginia Beach public student now. I have a kindergartner, and so slowed me down a little bit this evening coming out to get to you guys. My background is in child welfare, and children have been my experience throughout my career, working with children and families. I worked for the City of Virginia Beach as a Child Protective Services worker and a foster care worker. I worked at CHKD in the Child Abuse Program and worked with, and still currently work with, the City Attorney and the Commonwealth Attorney as an expert witness for child abuse cases in Virginia Beach and in multiple other cities. Currently I work as a curriculum developer for the Department of Social Services at the state level. I'm interested in bringing a different perspective from a child-based focused, child and family focused perspective, social, emotional perspective, a mental health perspective, and the perspective of a current parent in our school system. And so I look forward to answering questions and giving you additional feedback.
Questions? Why don't you tell us if you're in favor of removing, bringing back the valedictorian and the salvatorian?
Just to clarify, the vote happened to remove the valedictorian and salutatorian situation earlier this year. That happened prior to me coming on the board. However, I am in support of the changes that were made with class rank and valedictorian, salutatorian, the way that they were laid out, which still in the policy allows for the superintendent to recognize the highest GPA in the class each year, so that we still have recognition for the student who would have been considered the valedictorian.
Florida is the first state to teach human trafficking prevention in schools. Do you support this for Virginia Beach schools? And if elected, will you try to push this education?
It's a great question. I actually write curriculum for human trafficking for the state for social services. I think that there are ways that we can incorporate prevention strategies with our students without adding an additional curriculum for students to learn or for teachers to have to teach. It's important for parents and students and teachers to recognize warning signs of human trafficking, which aren't what people automatically assume of children being snatched into a van and stolen and used for trafficking somewhere. Anytime a child or person exchanges a service of sexual nature for any kind of monetary or other value, that can be considered human trafficking. It's common with gangs, and we do have gang activity in our schools, so I think that there are avenues that we can do better with prevention and education and identifying those risk factors.
Okay. Not exactly sure how where this question's going, but I'll ask it anyway. just about all school board candidates say they will reduce class size. As the school system is set as a percentage of the city budget, if you are advocating, if there's something to be cut, what would you cut and be specific?
Okay. With school class sizes and the teacher ratios, we're getting, part of that budget is coming from the state. What I would be doing is advocating for the state funding that has already been cut to be brought back so that we can staff our schools in the way that we should and provide the support and classroom ratios that our teachers deserve and that our students deserve. I am in support of having additional supports with teacher assistants and support personnel and using our teachers and support staff more efficiently and with less administrative duties than they currently have so that we can get the most out of the efficacy that they are supposed to be providing for our students.
Great. Lack of discipline seems to be getting rewarded. How do you feel about true discipline in the school?
Discipline is a topic that continues to come up and should continue to come up and be discussed. I am currently on a discipline committee with the school board that was just originated at our last school board meeting to look at the issues concerning discipline. The kind of insinuation that there is less discipline going on in our schools may not be exactly accurate. This past 2018, we did have more referrals and suspensions than we've had the previous year. So it doesn't seem that there is a lack of that referrals and suspensions happening. The current system, though, needs the input from the teachers and the parents about what's working and what's not working. We need to adjust based on the needs of the schools, and that's why I'm happy to be on the committee and was happy to be recommended for that committee by some of your colleagues.
What is your experience and knowledge about kids with 504s like me?
I have experience both with 504 plans and IEP plans. My son, who is a 2016 graduate from Ocean Lakes High School, had an IEP from about 2nd grade all the way through graduation. And so I'm familiar with the IEP process from the initial child study through the annual or biannual certifications and advocating. I like to relate that as a young parent starting out, I saw that I was getting a different response from teachers and from school administrators when I would go to advocate for my son than I did later in life as a professional going and advocating for my son. It's important that everybody has a voice and each parent's concerns are heard from the school, and I hope to advocate for that for all students, 504 plans and IEPs.
What is your experience, past or current, having the responsibility for oversight for multi-million-dollar budgets?
Prior to currently coming on the school board this May, I did not have multi-million-dollar budget experience. My household budget doesn't come anywhere close to anything. But I do have experience as an investigator to ask questions, to think critically, and to examine all of the different moving parts. As a single parent for a very long time, I had to learn some difficult prioritization. And that sometimes there's just not enough money to do everything that we want to do right when we want to do it. And so it's important to look at what are the necessary things, what are the wants, and how we budget and prioritize those things based on what we have, not based on what we hope to have.
Okay, 45 seconds for a closing.
I just want to close with saying our board right now is not cohesive the way it should be. There's things that are going on in the media that are embarrassing for me to participate in and for our teachers and our community. I want to be on the board to finish as a level-headed person who reaches out and advocates for all people in the community and with all of the members on the board, not to join one side or the other side, but to be focused on the children, the teachers, and the families of our city. And so I hope you guys will allow me the opportunity to finish the job that I've started. Thank you.
Okay, we do have Nancy Parker here who came to speak on behalf of Guy Tower because he couldn't make it, and I said I would give her 3 minutes to come up here and make an announcement. I don't know if he gave you his statement. You're so welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. Thank you, Diane, for 3 minutes. I thought I had 30 seconds, so thanks. I am here as Nancy Parker. I am an advocate for Guy Tower, who changed his mind and decided to run for council. And I was one of the many people who asked Guy to change his mind and to step forward and fill the seat on a permanent basis, because he has brought such a wealth of knowledge to the city of Virginia Beach, to the decision-making process, because of his legal background. He was also asked, as soon as he got on, to serve on the Dome site negotiation process. That was a real honor because they recognized, excuse me, I got the same thing Steve got. They recognized the importance of this particular project and what it can bring to the city and to the beach area. And so because of those background knowledge that he has, he's been on that negotiating team, and they're coming close to bringing that together. The other thing I want to touch on, because this has been such a hot topic item throughout, has been the loop. Now, I've been on the RACEP committee, which is a Resort Area Strategic Action Plan, and Guy has been on that plan also working. This is made up of people from the business community as well as citizens. And some of you, how many of you went out there to see the program at the convention center? There's been a lot of citizen input on that. And on that board, that commission of folks, the loop has been a hot topic item and one of big discussion. And they recognize that this is an area that's very precious to the general public. It's a fishing area, it's a biking area, it's a strolling area, and it's a parking area. There's nobody that's going to be doing anything. I promise you, there are no steamrollers coming down the road. Nobody's getting ready to put pile drivers in there. And nothing will happen until the general public has had full knowledge of this. This place we know is very precious. And I have been on this committee for over a year with lots of other citizens out there. So I hope that will help to lay this to rest. So when you get ready to go to vote on November the 5th, I'm going to ask you, I know one of your dear friends is here today, but I'd like you to consider Guy Tower also. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any representative here for either Rosemary Wilson or Joe McDonald? Okay. We also have the treasurer, 2 people that are running for treasurer. So Laura, would you like to go first for 3 minutes? I mean, we're not going to be asking them questions. They don't vote on anything. So that's why we didn't put them in the form. But would you like to come up and speak? And we'll give you 3 minutes as well.
Hi, I'm Laura Woodcover. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for holding this forum. This is really important to get the community and people together. And thank you for all volunteers for your work and your firsthand that volunteer work. So my husband and I own a restaurant called Crocs, if you've ever been, or to Farmers Market. And we've got 2 kids. They go to school in Bayside District. Our business is in the Beach District, and I live in the Lindyman District. And I spent much of my early childhood in the Pennsylvania District, on my dad's farm. And so, why did I get involved in the treasurer's race? Well, I got a delinquent notice sent to my business earlier this year, and I made phone calls, and I just tried to get the answers. I couldn't get them, pass it off to my husband, and I found out it was just an erroneous delinquent notice. They sent the computers, they just didn't match up properly, and so, if any of you know me, I'm not afraid to jump in. They say if politics doesn't find you, or you find it, it'll find you. So in 2005, the smoking ban came knocking on our door, and as restaurant owners, we're 10 cents on the dollar. And we didn't want the government in our business telling us how to impose a smoking ban, but we knew if we didn't get to the table, we'd come away with something we probably didn't like. And then a couple years later, an issue called offshore drilling came. Have you heard about that one? That was just sounding like a bad business deal, and we weren't having advocates talk for us. So I jumped into that, the urging of other friends. And to this, I take the same way. Constitutional officers are advocates for you and me. They get the bureaucracy out. They're not beholden to city council or the General Assembly. You are the boss. It's your office and it's your money. And so my platform is transparency, fiscal responsibility, customer service. That's an easy one for me being in the hospitality industry. And accountability. Because experience means nothing if you are not transparent. And on day one, I want a third-party audit. What does that mean? That means I don't want the regular little city audit or the state audit. I want a third person investigating what is going on. Why are computers not syncing? Why are the banks that we're investing in? Why do we have so many banks? So I've traveled around to other cities and asked thoughtful questions, had deep conversations about what treasurers do in Hampton, Portsmouth, Suffolk, and Norfolk. And we're behind the times. And I just want to get us there in a new direction. So thank you for letting me speak. I see my time's up. And vote for me on November 5th.
I'd now like to invite up our current city treasurer, Lee Henderson.
Good evening, everyone. I probably sound like a broken record because I think you guys have heard me talk about this time and time again. But I've been in the city treasurer's office for 19 years now. I worked for John Atkinson for 18 and a half of those years. And I started out right out of college after I received a bachelor's of accounting and a bachelor's of finance from Old Dominion University. I started out in the office as an entry-level accountant. And over the 19 years, I've worked in just about every position and every project in the office, which has given me a great background and experience in the specific operations of the city treasurer's office. The city treasurer's office is very much mandated by state code and city ordinance, and I think that's an important factor to consider when you're talking about the treasurer's office and what it takes to follow the rules and regulations involved in that process. What we have done is implemented some technology projects, and one of those was implemented at the end of last year. And it was about 20 years in the making of that. And that was under John Atkinson's control. And he was a great mentor in a lot of ways. In some other ways, I see things very differently from him. So what you get with me is the education, the background, the experience, a couple certifications that go with the specific operations of the treasurer's office. But you get also a new perspective of knowing exactly what I want to do differently, exactly what I want to change, exactly what I want to enhance. So with that new software implementation, it's just the beginning of changes to come in the city treasurer's office. There are more enhancements to be done. We're going to be working on expanding and enhancing our online payment capabilities. We're going to be working on some collections efforts. And what we receive in delinquent collections is feeling like and seeming like we are the bad guy sometimes. And it does appear that way, but the fact of the matter is, it is my job to be a collector. And we do that with compassion, we do that with understanding, but it is part of the job. I've implemented some formal collection policies in the office so that we can try to be fair and equitable against all. But collecting the taxes is the benefit to all of the citizens of Virginia Beach because the intent is to keep the tax rate low. And if all of those taxes come in, there won't be any need to, hopefully, at the decision of City Council, to increase those tax rates. To address some of the things also is we do go through annual audits, and those parties, the external auditor and the state auditor, they are third parties. They don't work in our office. They come in and have a fresh perspective of not having worked in there. We also manage an investment portfolio. Part of that is safety, liquidity, and yield, but part of that also is diversity. We don't want to put all our eggs in one basket because that wouldn't be safe to do. So I hope that you consider the time and experience that I've expended in this office to vote on November 5th for me.
Okay, now that you know who all the candidates are, if you'd like to help them out. out, work the polls for them, knock doors for them, ask them more questions, you will have the opportunity to do that. And before we break for coffee and tea, whatever, does anybody have any announcements that they need to make? John Moss.
I just want to announce that Nancy Parker served on city council from 1986 to 1994. 02, what a great job she did, and I just want to applaud her public service on that.
Okay, with that, motion to, oh, you have an announcement?
This Saturday, the Tower Libertarian Party is hosting our normal breakfast at the Providence Square Grill. Delegate Jason Mayeres will be the speaker. He's going to be addressing his red flag laws, which has become a very, very sensitive issue for those of us who believe strongly in the Second Amendment. Following that, there will be a press conference on the Common Ground Coalition. They're issuing a resolution on gun sanctuary cities across the state of Virginia. Removing our rights to protect ourselves and our loved ones is a tragedy and it's tyranny. And it's got to be stopped, and you'll have a chance to check on all of this on Saturday at the Libertarian Breakfast Meeting.
Read.
Good evening, I'm a member of the Tea Party Board. We had a large festival in April in our city called Something in the Water. And since we're the Tea Party, we try to find out through physical responsibility, did we, the taxpayers, get a return on the money that we invested in that? The city is prepared with ODU 2 reports that are available online that give you the particular details about the costs that were incurred that we, the taxpayers, paid approximately $1.2 million locally for the festival, and what the revenues were that were returned to us as a result of that. While there's a lot of information in here, I actually have read it all. And I encourage you to go online and read it yourself. But the short thing that, to be succinct, that I need you to understand is there are 2 reports. This one is sort of a high-level thing that says, yes, we made money, which is unusual because in a first-year event you normally don't make money. It's later on down the line. This report, however, tells you how we calculated that we made money. And when you read this, it tells you that all the details were estimates and derived, and formulas were used, and they were based off guesstimations of these numbers. And surveys were put out to 5,000 people, but 2,000 were thrown away because they didn't feel they were outliers. And of the surveys they selected, they used those as the base individuals and then projected what they might have spent when they were here or how their hotel rooms were. The main point in this is, as the Tea Party, you really have to look at the details to understand the facts. This report and these numbers are not based on actual numbers. They're based on estimations and formulas. So you need to take all of that with a grain of salt, and I encourage you to read the details. Thank you.
Okay, any other announcements, Molly?
In this room, on October 12th, Virginia Beach Taxpayer Alliance will be having their monthly breakfast, and Bill Steph is the guest speaker. Breakfast starts at 9, and the speaker presents at 9:15. The continental breakfast at 9.
Nancy?
Yeah, there's a new cultural center that's opened, and they're opening to the public for the first time, the African American Cultural Center. And it's going to be from 12 until 4. It's over there off of Newtown Road, 744 Hampshire Lane, and it's open to the public, and they would invite you all to come. So it's a good opportunity to see a bit of our history.
Michael?
Thank you. One question about mental health reminded me that there's an event I'd like to share with you. On October 10th, I'm hosting a conversation with Sheriff Ken Stolley at the Smart Mouth Pilot House at 4:30 p.m. about mental health and public safety in our community. As many of you know, our jails are the largest mental health providers in our community. And we have to work together, as we noted before, to improve the delivery and access of mental health services so that the people charged with public safety in our community aren't responsible for providing mental health services. because as it currently stands, that's the situation we're facing. So I hope that you'll consider joining us on October 10th at 4:30 p.m. at the Smart Mouth Pilot House for a community conversation about mental health and public safety. Thank you.